What's up, addicts? Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. In this video, we are taking a look at big man Derrick Henry heading into the 2020 season, giving you guys an updated look at his fantasy outlook. Newly signed and minted brand new contract, had signed the franchise tag, but was able to get a deal done before the deadline. Receives a 4-year extension, making him one of the higher paid running backs in the league, and rightfully so. Arguably one of the few running backs that actually mattered for his team. No one can argue that Derrick Henry could be easily replaced for what the Titans' offensive scheme wants to do. So, what do we expect from him in 2020? Now, last year was a very good year for Derrick Henry, earning his triple crown, leading the league in carries, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns. Not many running backs in the history of the NFL have been able to hit that mark, and of those that have are names of very high prestige. So hitting 303 carries, 1540 rushing yards, and 18 total touchdowns, only 18 receptions for 206 receiving yards, obviously limiting his upside in the passing game, which is really unfortunate because his overall yards per target is pretty high, especially in the last 3 years, one of the highest among running backs, just under 8 yards per target. So would be nice to see him involved in the passing game just a little bit more. Definitely is able to do it. They just haven't really chosen to use him that way. He did miss a game last year as well, was still able to finish with the 5th most fantasy points and averaging 19.6. Now, they did lose their tackle Jack Conklin, which is going to be a bit of a bummer. Running backs are very dependent on good offensive lines, and Conklin, one of the better run blocking tackles in the league, is going to definitely impact things. They did draft another tackle to replace him. Don't know how much of a drop that's going to be in his overall efficiency, but given the volume that he's going to receive, I don't really anticipate it affecting it all that much. We'll see. Obviously, having a really good tackle on your offensive line can be a very big difference maker. So something to keep in mind, and definitely a notch in the wrong direction for Derrick Henry. But I don't think it's enough to scare you off of drafting him altogether. Last year, very consistent. Couple games where he got, I guess you could put it as game scripted out, but for the most part, I mean, never saw less than 15 carries even in games that they lost. That game against Denver was a very poor performance offensively for the Tennessee Titans, but still saw 15 carries, just wasn't really able to do anything with it. Towards the back half of that season, though, once Ryan Tannehill took over, went on an absolute tear of 4 straight weeks, finishing in the top 6. And unfortunately, a lot of people remember him for getting hurt and missing the Fantasy Super Bowl in Week 16. So even though he may have gotten a lot of people to the playoffs, he wasn't able to carry you through all the way, which is upsetting, but wasn't really his fault. He finished very efficient throughout the entire year, and you could just see he would wear defenses down as the game would go on. By the time they got to the third quarter, people just didn't want to touch him anymore. You know, it's the Marshawn Lynch strategy of hitting someone in the face over and over and over again, and then they don't want to mess with you anymore. So Derrick Henry is the heart and soul of this team. It's what they want to do. They want to beat the other team into submission and just continue to grind them into the ground. This is something, you know, basically going against where the majority of the NFL is heading right now. But if it works, playing the contrarian strategy in the NFL sometimes ends up leading to success. The Titans were 1 game away from a Super Bowl, so it's hard to really knock them if they're able to maintain this success. Hopefully they don't go the way of the Jacksonville Jaguars from a few years ago and never even come close again. Last year they were the Cinderella team, and I think a lot of people are going to be rooting for them to do good again. So I think Derrick Henry is going to be very productive, although we can probably expect a little bit of a dip in his efficiency. So again, like I said, as he carried 303 times last year, leading the NFL, 81% opportunity share, that's number 4. 5.4 yards per touch, that's 13th in the NFL. 5% breakaway run rate, which is pretty crazy when you consider he had 303 carries. 25.5% juke rate, 579 yards created, number 1 in the NFL. 1.8 yards created per touch, and like I said, yards per target over 8 in 2019. So really hoping he gets some more targets this year. If he was even to see like 40, 50 targets, then he would probably vault into that elite category along with guys like Saquon Barkley. And I mean, Christian McCaffrey, it's hard to really put him there, especially in PPR leagues, because of how much passing volume he gets. But it wouldn't be that surprising to see Derrick Henry finish in the top 3 amongst running backs in PPR leagues if he was able to see just a smidge more passing volume. And maybe that's what we can expect in a year where they're probably going to have to pass the ball a little bit more. You don't really expect them to be able to run the ball nearly as much as they did last year, but if he's able to maintain anywhere near the same volume and see an increase in his passing work, watch out. So right now we have him projected to hit 1,400 rushing yards. Don't really have him getting that many more targets. Again, it's kind of hard to bet for something to happen again. And we do see him coming down a little bit on his total touchdowns with the weakening of his offensive line. So we have him finishing with 258.1 fantasy points. Still definitely worth a low, later first round pick. Doesn't quite give you that upside that you would want because of the lack of passing involvement, but I guess it's not an impossibility that he would see it happen. It's just not really likely considering the way that this coaching staff wants to use him, unless they completely change their game plan heading into 2020. I think we know what we're going to get with Derrick Henry, and as long as he can stay healthy, he's going to be a very productive running back. Just doesn't quite give you the upside of what you could expect from a player that could get, up to 50, 60 receptions. That floor of being able to receive 5, 6 catches a game really helps sustain some of those games where you're not seeing the same efficiency on the ground. So that definitely limits his upside just a little bit, but still absolutely love Derrick Henry. And this is an image I'm going to go out on for all 3 of the main guys in Tennessee, something you want to remember. This is the way that the Tennessee Titans want to play the game of football. They want to have guys that you do not want to have to run over you over and over again, and it's going to be really hard for opposing defenses to be able to keep up with it. So Derrick Henry, most certainly worth a first-round pick in all formats. Definitely sees a little bit more upside in standard leagues than PPR, but I'd be happy drafting him in the first round in all formats. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit the subscribe button for more videos, and we will see you guys in the next one.